And okay, Mike Merlin means Merlin Public Media, talking shit with Merlin. Tonight, once again, carrying on with our live. I'm going to clean this up and make it pretty one of these days. But tonight with us is.
Hi, I'm Teresa Deller.
Hi, Teresa Deller.
Nice to see you again, Mike.
What's going on?
Lots of changes.
Good, bad, indifferent?
Good ones. I was confronted with something that I had to really look deep inside and decide that it was time to change a few things and figure out what I had to do. And I knew that I had to get back to meditation, positivity. I was taking on other people's stuff, which I tend to do through the years, but this time was real deep. And I really, really, really care, and that's part of my biggest problem is I really do care.
Yes.
And when I need to back away, sometimes it's very hard for me to do. But I think this time, I can do it. Been doing a lot of meditation videos on YouTube. Fabulous. I'm telling you, there are some awesome people out there that really know what they're doing.
Oh, cool.
Definitely.
When you get back to this on Facebook, drop us some links, please.
I will.
Because that's a great thing to share.
Ones. Oh, I think so. We really need to do whatever we can because the one videos that group of videos that I like to watch is a gentleman that covers just about everything from anxiety to sleep to just needing to, change your life. Sometimes you have to do that. I mean, you really do. And so many young people don't realize that they can do that. They can actually, the positivity that they need in their lives, they can pull it from different revenues. And one of the big things for me was mentors that I was lucky enough to meet through the years of people that understood that you have to let some of the stuff go. And sometimes internalizing it is not a good thing.
Well, and before you can take care of somebody else, you do have to take care of yourself. I mean, that's the basic. I had a time with that one. I did. I'm doing pretty good with that now. I'm not 100% happy with it all, but I'm doing much better than I have in, well, literally decades.
Excellent. I'm getting there. I go through phases, I guess, and throughout my life where being a Libra, being somebody that's a genuine empath, it does really play on me a lot, but I always want to help. And that's I guess with me, that's just where I need to help me now. So that's where I was at. My husband was like, okay, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. What do we need to do?
Yeah.
So we've been walking twice a day now, and really having some deep conversations that we hadn't had in a long time, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
When you're together with somebody for 45 years, sometimes you just forget to continue to talk,
Mm. So let's go on. I saw a couple of interesting videos that you did on YouTube. And I've watched them several times, and apparently I'm a slow learner.
There you go. No, that's why I did
it. Is this something you're going to continue to be doing?
Yes, actually, I'm right now also talking with my daughter's girlfriend. She is deaf, and we are trying to collaborate something. I really don't feel that a hearing person, I see myself more of a hard of hearing person than I do a deaf person. So my sign language, what I teach is the very basics, the very beginnings, so that you start learning and understanding how it goes, where you should use your hands, how a room is laid out, What does this mean? You know, things like that, to explain those things, and then bring her in, and have her start teaching, with me as a backup kind of thing, where if anybody had a question, then I could jump on and say, you know, something for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we're right now. I am trying to figure out what my next step is. This all hit me last week, and it was like, okay, take a break.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
yeah.
I love teaching sign language. I always have. You know, when you've done it for 45 years, it's my first language at times, because, you know, I wake up most of the time, and before I even say a word, you know, verbally, I'm saying it in sign with my husband.
Right.
So a lot of times my days are filled with just sign language and no verbal
Mm-hmm.
communication with people.
So we talked about this once, and how you got into ASL, and I remember something about, and correct me if I screw this up, you saw this guy and you said, this man's going to be my husband, and
Yep.
your friend said,
She turned and looked at me, and she goes, you know, he's deaf. And I went, I don't care what he is.
yeah, so I did remember that, right?
Yep, you did.
And hence you started learning.
Well, that's funny, because we wrote notes back and forth for the first maybe 3 weeks or so, and then one day I get a phone call from his mother, and she says, "I would like to know how serious you are about my son." Well, I couldn't tell her at that moment that I was already in love with him and I was going to marry him.
No, that no.
But I did know that. You know?
Yeah.
So she said, well, let me get you in touch with a woman named Joanne Campbell. She teaches at a church not too far from where we live. Let me get you in touch with her. And I was like, okay, great. So she gave me the number and all that. I called the woman, and she said, yep, come. So my mom went with me, because I drug her with me. And it was like, you know, I was 18, you know, I was young and dumb. So, and within, as soon as Fred, my husband, my boyfriend at that time, started seeing me, you know, finger spelling and doing some simple sign, he started teaching me.
Okay.
And that's what the teacher wanted, because she had a deaf son and said, you know, the best way to learn is from the deaf. I'll get you the basics. And by the end of the class, which was about, I think it was like 6 weeks, you had to stand up and give a story in total sign language. Well, I did it, and everybody freaked out. And the teacher's like, okay, that's it. You can't come back.
You're done. You're making everybody else look bad.
Yeah, you need to go to the deaf world and just immerse yourself. And that's what I did. Basically, I just immersed myself. And then that was in 1977, 78. And then I married him in 1980, and 1985, I became the director of the deaf services in York, Pennsylvania. I was on call 24/7, 365 days a year. I never knew what I was going into the hospital or the police officers or whatever. I got the most wild experiences that a lot of people have never even thought could happen.
Okay. So my understanding of ASL is that it is not per se English.
Correct.
It has its own syntax and its own flow.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's something you learn farther in, after you've learned some words and forms and letters. And
yes,
so
it's important that you learn just the very basics first to get that part. A lot of people start with English, which is the word for word kind of stuff. A lot of deaf people get a little bit upset with seeing that. But as soon as they realize that the hearing person is really trying and wants to learn more, they usually are very understanding and will take you under their wing, basically, whenever they're in situations that they can.
Mm-hmm.
My kids, my daughter is now working at Rochester, something. I'm not sure what college up there she's at, but she's the head of a program where she's deafblind. I think I told you that before. And she and several people have all developed a new touch sign language that with the deaf, it was always you just held their hand, you held an interpreter or somebody that was signing in their hand, and you would get most of it, but you would miss the room, who was there, the color of the windows or whatever is in the room. They only get conversation. That's it.
Right.
With this, they get everything. If a deaf blind person walks into a room, they have no idea what's in that room whatsoever. A hearing person can sometimes, a deaf hearing person can navigate a little bit by banging or whatever, hearing what's going on or hearing if there's other people in the room. Where a deaf blind, they're pretty much stuck with
Yeah.
So they've come up with a way of explaining to them on them. What's going on. It's all like, okay, they're running up over the hill. Okay? They're going up over the hill. And they fall, that kind of stuff is all on here.
Okay.
And a lot of tapping. If somebody's behind them and watching them and they're looking out at the audience to see if everybody's getting what is being said, there's a person that can see tapping them on their shoulder, telling them that the people out there can see and understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And then there's somebody sitting beside her that's tapping her on her leg as she's signing and giving them the instructions because they're understanding what she's giving by the tapping.
Oh, wow.
Because you can't sit there and nod your head.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
not going to see you.
Yeah.
And you can't say it, so they're not going to
Right.
hear you. So it's all in the tapping and the touch.
Oh, wow. That's some deep stuff. I mean, and this is relatively new.
Yes. She had gone to Oregon, to a woman that was deafblind, and she was the one that started developing it. My daughter and another deafblind individual decided to start doing their own and traveling across the country and offering this all over the place where she stays stationary. They aren't together anymore, but they all do their own thing. But my daughter and her friend Jasper, they both travel. They were in Texas for 2 weeks at a deafblind camp, teaching this to both deafblind and hearing people, because the interpreters need to learn this also,
right?
So that they go into a doctor's office. Okay, over on the left-hand side, there are all the utensils, and what are they? What's in there? They have no clue. They don't even know they're sitting there.
Right.
And total communication, the whole thing. It's just amazing. My daughter's girlfriend, she is amazingly expert now, interpreting for my daughter whenever she's watching something that is too far for her to see. She does have some sight. I can sit and sign with her, and she does see me, because I haven't learned that yet. It looks to me very complicated when I'm watching it, but I'm sure it's not as complicated as my brain, because I just want to keep doing this and not the touch part gets a little. So I'm going to learn it. They're going to be here in a couple weeks over my birthday, and we're going to get together at the lounge, and hopefully a whole bunch of people can come and we can all enjoy ourselves, and people can meet and be able to realize, they're just like everybody else. They just can't hear you or can't see you. So
well, and to me, I mean, ASL looks phenomenally complex. And then when you say it's not English and it has its own syntax and forms, you're going, wow. Okay. Do I even want to, do I even want it? And I'm, when I was in college, and that would have been 77, 78, the university was discussing ASL as a language credit. They eventually did. And that put them in a precarious position, because after that, if a class required it, they had to provide an interpreter.
Yep.
Because, here you go. Okay, we're teaching it, and, others are using it, and some of the people learning it were, I don't know, had all of their senses, and some of them, and you open that can of worms and you gotta follow through.
For sure. Well, in I think it was 1968, was the first time that the deaf had any kind of interpreting allowed in like hospitals. That's the only setting at that point up until 1990 something, that then it changed to the Americans with Disabilities Act, and then they were supposed to be provided anytime they went to a doctor's office, dealerships or whatever. Well, it is now 2023 and that's still not happening. They now have come up with a video service for the deaf. And at the hospital, they just wheel in this cart that has a laptop on it, and it opens up and they bring up an interpreter that's sitting somewhere in some little room somewhere.
Okay.
Now, the problem with that, for my husband, it was perfect. He had wonderful communication. He had no problem because he's been with me for so long that he understands the English and the deaf and all that kind of stuff and how it all works. Where with someone like my daughter, who is deaf blind, she can't use those.
Right.
Well, they have to fight for this now. They're fighting this right now in Maryland, actually, trying to get the National Association of the Deaf and there's several deaf organizations out there, and they're trying to get them all together to try to do some kind of class action to start fighting. Because one example that I know of was a gentleman that I absolutely adored, an older guy, went into the hospital and there was not really anything wrong with him that we knew of. I went in and interpreted and left. And they told me they didn't need me, so I left. When I came back, he had passed away. His family had no idea what happened. I had no idea what happened because it was 3 days later. I had no idea that he was still in the hospital, had been in the hospital or anything. They sued that hospital. For $750,000, and they got it.
Oh, yeah.
The hospital now does provide. However, now they're starting to use the video also. And that's a little sticky for some people. My son just recently had shoulder surgery, and he's deaf. He wanted somebody there, and they refused him. So he refused the surgery. So he waited, and they made arrangements, and they provided for him like a week later, and then he had a surgery with an interpreter in the room. But he had asked for that before he even went in, sat with social services and told them, and it didn't happen. It happens all the time for us too, because they see I can sign and they think they don't have to provide an interpreter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not right either, because what if I'd ever have to tell my husband that he has cancer or whatever?
Yeah.
That's not cool.
No, it's not. And I get the video part to a degree, because the service isn't all that frequently needed, and Someone can
Exactly.
do this from their home.
Exactly.
And for those people that works for, that's epic.
Yes, it's fabulous.
But then there's the
But
rest of them.
yeah, and that those people that fall into that, and those are people, even people who have autism, people who have different sensory problems and things like that. They can't even look at a screen. There's those
Yeah.
people out there too.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at mentally challenged people who just don't understand the concept. They're still locked in their brains and can't get out of that, because a lot of these deaf people, unfortunately, were locked away in their families.
Oh,
Not
sure.
really,
Hidden.
it's still.
Yeah. And that, sadly, people with mental, emotional, learning, physical handicaps are still locked away by their families in the 21st century. What
Yeah,
the hell?
I don't get it.
I
Don't.
know.
Yeah,
So
it really does upset me.
are there places where it is universal law, like a courtroom? Is that
Yes.
so?
And
In
guess
a
what?
courtroom?
They failed there too.
Oh,
They failed there
geez.
too. My husband, my son, when he was sworn in to become a citizen, we're down in Washington D.C. in a great big courthouse. Those
Mm-hmm.
great big things you see on TV.
Yeah.
I got to sit in one of them.
Ooh.
We get there, and he had asked for an interpreter months before.
Mm-hmm.
We kept calling and asking and making sure. 1 week before, he called. Yes, no problem. We get there, and there is an African gentleman speaking some kind of African language. My son was born in Haiti and knows French and English and American Sign, not African. Any kind of language that comes from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So they came out and asked me if there was any way that I could probably do this. Please, is there any way? Well, I went in and I talked with the judge, told the judge how I felt. I'm very hard of hearing. You're putting me into a space that I haven't done for a long time. By that point, I hadn't interpreted for a few years for professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no problem. Just do what you can. Put your hand on the Bible. And I just swear. And that was it. And then the next thing I knew, I was sitting in a room with probably about 300 people. And they were from all over the world. Amazing, the different interpreters that were sitting with them to speak to them as the judge was talking, because the only interpreter that actually was in there was me, because the other guy wasn't allowed in them.
It's things, there's all this stuff going through my head right now because I've not been in that world.
Right.
And I'm like, watching television, going to court, talking to a police officer when you've been pulled over, trying to buy groceries, looking for anything in a store. I mean, there's just millions of situations.
Yep. And there are a lot of deaf that do not have a very good education. And that is unfortunate, because they were either held back or put into classrooms where it was mostly, put in with lower children that didn't really learn a lot. Maybe they were limited in some kind of fashion. But there are so many out in this world that have no clue of what's really happening. They do not know how to read a letter full out and understand it, because the English language, as we know, has words in it that means,
Oh yeah.
L-I-V-E.
Yeah.
They go, what is that? Which one?
Which one? Right, exactly. And it's tough enough sometimes. I mean, born and raised English, and there's times I gotta go back and reread it. Oh, it's that one. It's one of the trickiest languages out there, I'm told. I'm not I tried a little French and a little Latin in high school, and I was not real good. Just I couldn't wrap my head around it, because I don't know why, but
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Then everybody else around
Well,
me
with
is
sign language, I think it's all in the teacher.
very
It's a teacher.
possibly.
It's
And a
really the
public school
teacher.
system is not the best place to learn anything. And it's
Uh,
worse now than when I was there.
I mean, we were talking with that. I graduated in 1978 myself, and in that time period, it's funny, the teachers that I had were telling us back then about, superbugs, climate change,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. They saw it coming back
Yeah.
then.
Yep, they did.
That's scary. That's really, really
It
scary.
is. When Anna and I have this conversation, they've known, the oil companies have known since the 50s.
Oh my God.
All
Oh my
these
God, yes.
all these things that are not, and they just hid in the name of profit. And
Yep.
and
I love the argument about the electric cars, about the batteries. And it's like, somebody somewhere has a hemp battery. I don't care what anybody says.
no, they're
out
there. I've heard of them.
They're out there.
They're out there. They hold, from my research, which I found all that much, they hold a charge. They hold a greater charge that can be what's the word, used for a longer period of time.
Oh, wow.
Static, they will hold a charge longer than anything we have now. But the hemp batteries are supposed to be, and there's no real profit in it just yet. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, that's it right
It
there.
comes down to
Yep,
the
that's
money,
there.
and my camera just went off, and I don't
Yep.
know why.
Yep.
So
I
let's check
totally
some
agree, Mike.
connections.
Yep.
And
Yeah, where are you? All of a sudden, I'm seeing the cave.
yeah, well, let's try this. Give me a sec. Come on.
I'll tell you a little bit more about ASL. There's several different layers of ASL, American Sign Language, and there's also different cued ones where they point on their faces to enunciate whatever's being said. That's cued speech. There's English Sign Language. Actually, there is, word for word sign language out there for people who became deaf, who were hearing, and did not really grasp the idea of American Sign, which is the ASL part where everything is condensed and done differently.
I did not know all of that.
Oh, there's even more. It's so deep. It really is. I know people who have been studying it for years and years and years, and they come out here and sit with me and Fred, and they just go, I don't know nothing. Like, live it, baby, live it.
Well, okay, so they're standardized, I'm sure, ASL, but do couples or friends or circles, do they make up their own words, phrases, etc.? Is
My
there like,
husband and my brother-in-law, when we first were together, I had no idea what they were saying. I would ask them all the time, what are you guys talking about? It took me a long time to understand the way they developed their sign language, because it was situational. If something would be a certain way, they would take it from that and just use that sign forever.
okay, so just like Juanita and I have words that, I mean, it would sound like gibberish to other people, and So that happens the same way, I would suspect. I mean, I thought it would, but it's, it's one of those things where there's the common speak and then personal speak.
Yep.
That
And then you've got local signs and national signs, regional signs, um, international signs. It's fun.
it
It really is.
sounds like it is fun, but it also sounds like it takes a level of dedication that will probably, well, not probably, but more often than not, only be adapted by a person who needs to.
Yep. And you fall in love. That does it too.
Well, that's a major motivation right there, man. It really
Oh,
is.
major, baby. Big time. Big time. Because I thought, oh, if I can't yell at him.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that. This just
The
isn't going to
neighbors.
work. There's not enough information there.
Oh my God, I had to really learn because I wanted to be able to give it to him when I had to, and understand what he was giving me,
Yes.
back and forth there.
Right.
Because it's easy, I think, to give it, but to read it is a lot harder because depending on how they learn to sign and where they learn to sign. My husband's signs are all from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area.
Okay.
They have their own. I mean, there are so many signs I've used with people out in this area, and they look at me like,
what's that?
Yeah, what's that? And then they learn it. And it's easy once you start processing it and getting into your brain how it really works. That's when you start being able to pick up all the little ones out there that are out there. You don't have to remember everything because at some point or another, if you have to, you can fingerspell it.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of them are very good fingerspellers, and that's not a good thing either.
A lot of people aren't good spellers, but that's just
Exactly.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and there I was an interpreter. So there were times where I'd say, if a doctor said a word, I'd look at him and go, all right, I really feel stupid. Could you please spell that?
Right.
And then they'd look at me like, what? And I'd go, please just spell it. And I'd spell it, and the deaf would go, what's that?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been an interesting life for me for that.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. It's just, my head is just kind of, I knew I wanted to bring up your video, but this is kind of like, my head is just like reeling right about now with all the different, if I recall, and there was a TV network or that had a signer down in one corner.
Yes. Yeah. For a long time. That was like way back.
Does that still exist?
No, I don't see. Very rare do you see any sign language interpreters and bubbles or anything anymore. Most of them use their closed captioning. Now, if you're watching the news, sometimes you'll see an interpreter standing beside a governor or the president or whatever, which is good, but they're still not there all the time. It's still a lost language a lot where they're not getting that communication. Everybody just thinks everybody can read and they can just read it. No, that's not exactly how it goes, unfortunately. I wish that more could understand how this all goes for them, because the deaf have very little voice in this world. The few that are like Marley Matlin, the actress, the guy that just won the Tony. These people, and by the way, my daughter knows them.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, she knows all these famous people. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, it's little by little they're getting out there. Marley got a bad rap when she first came out because of using her voice more and not using her sign more. And she would take roles where she would use an interpreter off stage and not use sign on stage kind of stuff. And But she's come into herself now, and I think most of the time she does sign with everything.
Well,
So
and
that's a
it's,
good thing.
if people don't see it, and as a rule, people don't see it. I mean,
Exactly.
I met your husband here at the
Yep.
house. In my 64 years, he's the only deaf person I have met, period. And so if you don't encounter it, you don't think about it. You don't just pull things
Exactly.
and focus on it. So, and I saw that, and him and you interacting, and him and you and me and Juanita interacting to a small degree. And then I saw you're starting your classes on YouTube, and I'm like, we got to go here.
Cool.
Because every cause, I don't, I'm trying to think of a better way to say this, and I can't. It's a silent cause, because
Yes.
it's just not, if it's not in your life, you have nothing. You have no reason to deal with it. I've seen politicians or even singers with what looked like a combination of interpretive dance and sign, and
Yep.
it was beautiful. But
Oh, there's some really rockers out there, man. These chicks that are out there doing this, they are so good.
it's just, like I said, I've encountered one deaf person in my life, a couple of blind people, never a deaf blind person. So your mind doesn't go there because it's not part of your world. So yeah, I had to do this because I want to understand a little bit more. I want people watching this to understand a little bit more, and maybe we can start some conversations, because apparently the Americans with Disabilities Act failed them.
Yeah, very big time.
The physically handicapped got a pretty good, not a great deal, but a pretty good deal.
Yeah, better deal.
But yeah, this was missed. This is just entirely, or I'd be seeing more about it. I'd be seeing more signing. I'd be seeing,
Exactly.
and I'm not. And I mean, I'm not a TV video junkie. I watch my fair share, but and admittedly, my hearing is, I'm old, and I've listened to an awful lot of really loud rock and roll. So my hearing is starting to dip a little bit. So I rely completely on closed captioning. If I'm watching something and it has it, it's on.
Exactly.
And you can tell what was done post-production and what was done by a piece of software. And, people don't pronounce cleanly and clearly. And so you get these really interesting words. And you're
Can you imagine that person going?
Yeah. I mean, I can, now I can. It's like, he said, what?
Yeah,
Like my
I've heard
cup?
so many times.
Can you
That's
see
cool.
tie-dye?
Disappears.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I like that.
I'm still working on the lighting in here. The separation between me and the background is much better. The camera is 1,000 times better than it used to be, but I need to get some better video lighting in here because it's a dark room. And well, I
Well, you
like
can
the
see
dark.
you a lot better. You can see
Yeah.
you a lot better than the last ones. So yeah.
So I'm happy with
Good
it,
job.
but I need to work on some lighting because, well, that's my thing, is lighting. And
Yeah, really.
so if I'm doing shitty lighting, then yeah. But I got
Yeah.
to spend a few bucks and buy a couple of good lights and put them up there, and I will eventually. But the new camera and the lighting that I'm using now is night and day improvement. I'm happy with it. And the
That's
sound on
awesome.
here is good, and
Oh,
we're live
perfect.
streaming. I'm
Yeah.
working on dumping through either, which was the one you used? You mentioned, I asked about
StreamYard.
StreamYard. Yeah. Because people are
Yeah,
telling me
I like that one.
restream StreamYard, restream, and I'm like trying to figure out, and the cost is virtually identical. For the first tier level, it's about $20 a month if you're going to
Right.
go over 45 minutes, which I
Right.
almost
Exactly.
always do. And it's not really, and it
Yeah.
sends it everywhere. I mean, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter,
Yep.
everywhere. And so,
Yeah, the only thing you have to remember is the guest has to stay in the room until you, I think, have it downloaded. That's
okay,
the only thing with StreamYard.
okay. That I
That's
didn't
something
know.
you
So
might want to
thank
look
you for
into.
that.
Yeah, that was something I saw because I haven't had any guests or anything yet. And it was like, how am I going to do it with TK whenever she decides to do it with me? You know, what are we going to do that? And she was like, well, that's all right. I'll just leave the phone on and just walk away. Like, okay.
Yeah, that would actually work. Yeah,
She's intense. She's really intense. When do you see her? She's really intense.
I'm looking forward to that. It's
Oh, I'll tell you, I am just blessed beyond anything. There are so many times where I sit with people and I forget that, like you, only have ever met one deaf person in your entire life.
yeah,
That's majority of America.
I'm certain.
You know, that's a lot of freaking people that have never ever anywhere we go, anywhere. Eyes are on us everywhere.
Hmm.
I can turn and whoa, you see somebody looking away. But there are some stories I've had where people have watched and they actually knew sign and tell us if they knew it. And I don't know. Did I tell you the story of the restaurant where the lady came over to us?
I don't recall. So go ahead.
Okay, there was a lady. We had gone to West Virginia to a cabin for one of our anniversaries way back when. And we're sitting in a restaurant and we're talking about what we had done the night before in bed.
Oh,
and,
okay.
and we're just
Thinking no
because,
one can
you know,
overhear you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Good one, Mike. Good one. And the next thing we know, this woman comes marching over. This little Southern woman with a Southern accent, man. She came over and she goes, "You are awful. You are evil people talking about sex at the table."
Oh my God, that's great.
And my husband looks and goes, "Nosy, get away."
Uh-huh. And I would have remembered that story. Yeah, no,
Okay.
that was a new one. And yeah, who can
Yeah,
overhear
we have
us? Yeah,
lots.
nobody. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that
That's
was one of
yeah,
our funniest ones.
I'm
You know,
sure. And
we've met a lot of really interesting people that have actually been brave enough to walk up to us and talk to us. Mostly children. Those are the ones that'll walk right up and just say, "What are you doing?"
mhm.
Because they don't know, or the ones that do know. I mean, it's amazing. Oh my gosh, this little teeny tiny little blonde, blue-eyed little girl comes running over to my husband and goes, "I know a little bit of sign." And we were like, oh. And her mom came over and goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is so wonderful." I'm like, "Where's she learning it?" And she said, "Sesame Street." I said, "They're
What?
still teaching it on Sesame Street?" Wow. Awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that was a groundbreaking show on so many levels.
Oh, oh my, oh my. Oh, thank God for that show. For so many, like you said, for on many different levels.
I mean, where do you start? And then
Yeah.
at some point in time, I remember the massive ruckus when they had what's the proper word these days? Non-binary person.
Right. Yeah. Freaks people out, huh?
And oh my God, you're showing this to little kids. And they're like, it's in the world. They're gonna
Oh
deal with
my
it
God.
one way or another.
Oh, I just don't get it. I really, really don't understand why. I mean, if people are following, quote unquote, the teaching of Jesus, why aren't they following the teaching of Jesus?
Uh-huh.
You know, I'm not one really I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. I
Exactly. Me
believe
too.
there is a greater out there. I don't know
Hmm.
what it is, but I think it's a collective of all of us. So,
That's
um,
really close to my perspective. I mean, we're individual minds of the great mind. And a lot of people
exactly.
can't wrap their head around that, and that's cool. They'll get there in another lifetime or two.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I
not going to
agree with
stress
that.
over it right now with you, so you'll catch up. I
And
used to, go ahead.
and then I have people say, "Well, you tell me, I'll say prayers for you." That I say, I'll pray for you, and I'm like, you don't understand. My prayers are meditation and positive affirmations.
Hmm.
Your prayers are prayers. They're the same thing that I'm doing, just in a different
Yeah.
form.
Hmm. They're exactly the same. It's just it's not what I was taught, so therefore it must be wrong.
I was
And
Catholic. I was raised Catholic, so
I was baptized Catholic, and then, God's forbid, raised Lutheran.
oh, big time.
And there was a point where I was, I don't know, 13, and I was already looking into the seminary.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
Whoa.
I've changed a little bit.
That, my friend, is very true.
My friends in high school remember me carrying a Bible around with me all the time. Big
Wow.
old cross. Oh yeah, that was me. Sophomore year high school speech class. I managed to take every concept for a speech given to me and turn it into a sermon.
Oh my God.
The speech teacher was the drama coach, and I was in the technical part of theater. And he's like, you have everybody's undivided attention every time you're up there. Maybe that is your calling. It wasn't. I wasn't afraid of getting in front of people back then, and I'm getting back to that. This whole thing is considerably brought me out of my shell, because I was the guy behind the camera, not in front of it, no microphone in front of me, and I enjoy doing this, but it comes down to you people. You guys are what makes this fun. You guys are what allow me to be able to do this without being a nervous wreck. Interesting people, interesting topics, and well, what are we going to talk about if I come on your show? I said, we're just going to talk. Well, when is it over? When it's done. How will we know? We'll know. Either I'll have to get off of here and get some oxygen, or it'll just wind down and we're like, hey man, good night. And it's but this has become quite what is this, your second time, third time?
Second.
Second?
No,
Yeah.
third. Is
Third.
this a
I
third?
thought
Yeah,
third.
third time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the first time was supposed to be with your former other partner, and that didn't work, and we still discussed.
Yeah.
And
We discussed everything and anything. I love that. I love that.
That's, I don't want to. I'm talking to a group of people that want me to edit their podcasts, and they're expected to be between 1.5 and 4 hour episodes.
Whoa. Okay.
I won't go into any more right now until I have the job.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of fun. A 4 hour podcast isn't much more difficult than what we got under our belts now, 48 minutes. It's not that much more difficult. I mean, you go in, you set up the audio, and you make sure the cameras are good, and you put your backgrounds in, and da 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 da, and then it kind of stays.
Now, do you have a lot of different laptops, or
Okay, let's
are
see.
you using computers, or
I got
what are you
a
doing?
desktop here, two
Okay.
monitors. I got a laptop over here. I got a laptop over there. I got a mixer down here. Over there, because I don't need it right now, I have a video editing shuttle deck, which instead of having to do everything with keyboards and mouse, I could do them with my hands.
Oh, wow.
And this is stuff left over from my studio. And mostly stuff that I sold my lighting board 2 days ago to a very good friend.
Oh, good.
And that was like, okay, you're done. And physically, I know I'm done. I can't do it. I can't do it. So, but some of the toys are hard to part with.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing it, and so this keeps me busy. I have 2 interviews across the pond this month and 1 next month.
I love those. I do. I love those.
And I mean, these are fun guys, and they're like generational pagans.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Cool.
And one says meet this guy, and then meet that guy, and I've got a guy coming up. He does a music magazine in the greater DC area.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And and people are like, hey, you want to go talk some shit with Merlin? And they're like, who's Merlin? I'm like, look up Talkin Shit with Merlin. Go talk some shit. And some people do, and some people don't. And one person only to this day, no names will be dropped, froze. They just froze.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's okay. Turn off the computer, go grab a bowl, chill, it'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
They're like, you're mad at me. You're mad at me. I'm like, not mad at you. This was me not that long ago. I can't be mad at you for something that used to be me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I'm not afraid to get in front of anybody. That ended when I got the job at the Deaf Center, and I had to be everywhere. I was on stage a lot, giving speeches, telling the mass majorities of like the Lions Club, the Lionesses, the different groups that are out there, Kiwanis and all those guys. Stand there and give them speeches and have no idea what I was really going to say, because I'm not one to make notes. So it was like, I just stand there and rattle on. And then when it would be over, they go, oh, you got so much information. I'd be like, oh, thank God.
Have you ever had to interpret for someone who you would rather not have?
Oh, man.
Where their ideals are so against yours that you'd rather done this?
Oh, man, there was a particular woman. She had epilepsy, and she was nasty all the time. She would end up at the hospital because she would be hungry, and throw a fit right in the middle. She could actually put herself into a convulsion. Nobody ever figured out how, but then she'd be hateful, really just hateful, and start yelling, and she told people that I hit her and all these kind of things, and there's all kinds of videos, so there was never those kind of things, and she tried to do that. So that was one I really didn't like. And there was a guy before that was very obnoxious, because he knew he could be. He knew that nobody else knew what he was saying to me, and he was directly at me. And then the other ones would be the prisons. Never really liked going to the prisons. They were very, they look through you. You know, those guys are just like hearing guys that are cons. You know, they just wanted to use me in any way they could. And when you walk in there and they know sign language, it's like, oh man, you know, I'm going to take advantage of this one. So those were really tough. Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I went into Camp Hill, which is their federal prison, quite often. My favorite one, though, I have to tell you that one. That one was a guy that was holding a baby and as hostage, and he was. They had me with binoculars looking from another building to try to get this guy to read his lips, because I'm pretty good at reading lips. And I was sitting there going, fuck, shit, no.
Yeah.
So I think that was my favorite one of all of them, to be honest with you. And the cop kept looking at me and going, and I go, I'm just telling you what he's saying. But that was a weird one. That wasn't sign language. That was actually lip reading. So, but yeah, I've had quite a few through my lifetime, from everything Tourette syndrome people to, you know, mentally challenged to idiots, you know, hillbillies, you name it.
There's a number of idiots out there.
Oh my, you can, yeah.
We don't even want to start on that. We just don't even want to go there.
That would be hours.
Yeah. And we might just wander into politics, which is one of the no-nos on here.
Oh,
that's just one of my,
there.
You know, I do my damnedest to avoid politics and religion.
Yeah, I do too. Because
there's no pleasing people with either one.
I agree.
And I've stopped people. I actually stopped recording because the person just went into this political rant, and I'm like, click, bye.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I told you the rules. No religion, no politics, and talking shit ain't shit talking. We ain't shit talking anybody here. And only once. And as a person I knew for many, many years, and they knew, and they thought, like, he's going to let it ride. And no.
Yep.
No, didn't do it.
Good for you.
Well, you know, I'm very accepting of people so long as they show me them and not what they think I want to see. You know, you tell me you are whatever. And if that's how you behave, then we're cool. If it's not how you behave, I'm going to call you out.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Well, well, okay. It's fun, okay? It's fun. You're saying you're this and you're doing this, and this. I'm sorry. It's fun. I do that for me.
Yeah. That's important. I think that we need to learn that. So
yeah, we have to do for us. You know, it's like way back to the beginning of the conversation. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And if you don't take care of yourself, nobody else is really going to want to help take care of you either.
Oh man, that's not the truth, though.
Yeah.
It's true. It is. So, but yeah, I will be doing some more of the sign language ones. I'm not sure when maybe after this weekend, I'll get back on Monday and start working on them. I have several people that have been contacting me and saying, can you tell me what this is or what that is? And it's like, that's kind of cool. I'm open. I want to just be able to, reach out with something that I know. And, I never thought about this whenever I was a young kid, that I would be able to teach, and not only, about ASL and the cannabis, the different
Yeah.
things that I have in cannabis.
We haven't even gone there yet.
Oh my gosh. I just made another batch of my salve. I had
Oh, that I tell you what, both Juanita and I've used that, especially on the low back, and you got a few minutes and the knots start to untie, and then you're asleep.
love it.
It's great.
It's just amazing. I mean, seriously, cannabis, coconut oil, and beeswax. It's just amazing. I don't care what anybody says.
Simple. Keep it, it's like, and we've talked about the herbal medicines that we use. It's simple. Keep it simple.
Exactly.
There are always cases where you need Western medicine.
Oh, yes.
There's
Oh, yeah. I
going,
totally agree with that.
There are
Yes, I
always
totally.
cases, but until you do, don't. Pretty much everything, there is a plant out there that will help you with it. One in particular that'll help you with damn near everything. But
Yeah,
there,
exactly.
I take several tinctures every day. And my doctor's like, how come you're not getting a new rescue inhaler every month? And I'm like, I don't need it.
Excellent.
And he knows, my pulmonologist knows full well that I am using tinctures. He said,
excellent.
Don't smoke. Don't smoke it. Not your lungs, not in the condition you're in. Go ahead and use it, but don't smoke it. And I'm like, okay. But that's that, and I don't necessarily always listen to him. More often than not, I do. But there's sometimes when like the lungs get real bad and you need something that goes right to the lungs and relaxes them first. So then I will do it. If it's something that's a long-term glyceride tincture, and those are fine. But if I got to have my rescue inhaler is a pipe.
Amen.
Well, when I was, let me try and figure out how old I was then. About maybe 10 years old. And the allergist I was seeing was retiring.
Oh,
and
wow.
he's like, you're going to have bad asthma for the rest of your life. So when you get a little older, find something called marijuana.
Wow.
And this will relax your lungs now. And if you ever tell anybody my name associated with this conversation, I will deny it. Because this was late 60s, early 70s.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, do this. But, and I'm like, I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. And I asked my parents, and they just kind of like rolled their eyes, like, I've heard of that stuff and it's evil. I don't know why your doctor's telling you that. But I remember that. Yeah, devil's lettuce, I mean,
wow, that's just
yeah,
amazing.
He was so far ahead of his time.
That's so sad, though. Why couldn't more doctors be like that back then? Today, we would not be where we are.
No, we wouldn't. Wouldn't be,
Pharmaceuticals would not be out there like they are.
No, they won't. And I had my knee replaced I don't know, 3 years ago-ish, maybe longer.
Oh, wow.
And, I'm going to physical therapy 3 times a week. And the lady running the place is like, your scar's almost healed. And it's not hard. It's not a massive, lump of, she's just kind of rubbing it. She said, it's soft. What are you doing? I'm like, calendula oil. And she's like, yeah, that'll do it. But if I tell somebody that, they're going to pull my license. It's not a pharmaceutical. They're not allowed to recommend it.
All right. Isn't that horrible? Look at that. Look
It
at that.
is.
Isn't that horrible?
It is. And, I mean, I tried to, that's not going to show on this camera. I tried to cut the tip of my finger off a couple of weeks ago, pruning a tree. Activated charcoal, calendula oil, and tea tree oil. The infection is gone. Juanita had a massively deep, ugly spider bite on her fingertip, just up between the second and third knuckle. Activated charcoal, tea tree oil, calendula oil, bandage, change it. Nothing. It's gone.
Wow. Amazing.
Nature has all the medicine we need if we just take the time to find it or find somebody who knows what it is. And
Yeah,
you've
because
met
we're the
Juanita.
ones that
She can
did-
talk you to death on this stuff.
Oh, that's who you should have on your show is Juanita. Get her on there and talk about this kind of stuff. I think she's fascinating.
She is fascinating. But the most fascinating thing about her is she puts up with my sorry ass. I mean, several times a day, I'm like, I don't get it. Why do you put up with me? But that would, and okay, she listens to every single show. So I'm going to say, look, Teresa said, I had mentioned it. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think she's fascinating. She has a lot of information that that I can learn from her, and we need to be able to have people like her that are going to share. The younger generation they are starting to try.
They are
quite a few people that are the butt tenders around here have all become friends with me, and I'm constantly telling them those kind of things like, are you eating right? Are you getting, do you know that your body really needs 30 fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts and things like that a day? They're like, no, it's always 7. I was like, no, really, 30.
And,
and all these other things that we could be doing that we wouldn't have to be using pharmaceuticals.
Diet is the number one thing.
Big.
And I've been bad.
Me too.
I've been eating cheese again.
Oh, every now and then too.
Oh, no. I've been eating cheese again, and I have to stop.
Oh, I get it now.
Okay. And I mean, that's my sole dairy, really. But
I love cheese too.
It's cheese.
Sharp. The sharper, the better.
And the milk-free vegan cheeses, well, they suck. They're awful.
I agree.
We've tried some. They're awful.
Yep.
And
we've tried to.
And dairy was the first thing we dropped. Dairy was the very first thing we dropped. And, we're down to chicken and turkey, basically, as far as animal protein goes. And maybe twice a week. So we're doing okay. But once that cheese, I mean, it's, it's cheese.
Yeah.
You can't hide from it.
I do get it. Unfortunately, I do get it. Yeah, we haven't eaten meat or chicken, any kind of meat, in almost 3 years now. We were sitting down the other day and we looked at the calendar and we're like, oh my God, it's been almost 3 years. Mostly fish, vegetables, a lot of vegetables, a lot of spinach,
Rice.
Yep.
A lot of pasta, beans. Oh yeah, beans. Yeah. Man, I love beans. And everyone's like, beans are going to give you gas. Beans only give you gas when A, they're not prepared right, and B, your stomach biome is trash.
Yes. It's a good way of putting it.
and so, and no, they don't bother us anymore. I mean, and
no,
we don't
have any problems with
pintos and black beans and Can't remember what they're called. They're a white bean, not a navy or a lima. Oh, we're growing limas. I got limas in the garden right now.
Do you really?
Yes.
Well,
I can't remember what they're called. Some people call them Peruviana, but they're
I know. But
they're a very soft, very flavorful white bean,
I think I know what you're talking about.
and I love
There's
them.
yeah, I do like some. I'm big on certain ones, and others that black beans. I like making black bean brownies.
Excuse me. What's
Black
that?
bean brownies. Honest to God, one of the best brownies you could ever have, and you'd never guess that it was nothing but beans in there. Black beans. Look it up.
I will.
Seriously, it's an excellent brownie. Of all people, the first time I ever saw it was on Dr. Oz back in the day. It was
okay.
way back.
Yeah.
When he was actually doing things that were actually smart and really good things.
He did some great things in the beginning, and then
yeah, there were things that he did that I was like, oh my God, Mom, please stop watching him.
yeah.
But yep, so that's what I do is because we have to, and we also take a supplement that's all fruits and vegetables too. So that's important. CBD every day, and THC is a must.
Well, yeah, come on. I mean, that's basically how we met.
Yep. Yep, for sure.
Well,
But yeah,
my friend,
I definitely want to see Juanita on there. So tell her.
You say that one more time.
Juanita needs to be on here. Get on
Okay.
there, Juanita.
I'm gonna get off of here and
Okay.
shove a hose in my throat again for another hour or so and chill out. And it's been a pleasure as always. And of course, I'm going to ask you to do this again at some time in the future. So, and
Cool.
share some links from what we were talking
Cool.
about earlier. And because this will
I
be
will.
solid on Facebook in 15 minutes.
Cool. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you. Good
You
to
have a
see
good
you, dude.
night. Thank you.
You too. Peace out.